Hey folks, this is Rhykker, and the PTR for Diablo 4 2.0 has ended. And in this video, I wanted to highlight 5 builds that I'm excited about going into Vessel of Hatred. I mean, technically 6, let's just say. First and foremost, the Spiritborn, the new class. That's probably gonna be my first class, my first build. Probably gonna go with a Jaguar, maybe a Jaguar Eagle build, but we didn't get to try that on the PTR. So for the other 5 classes, I've picked one build that I'm most excited about. All the footage that you're seeing, I recorded this myself on builds that I just kind of slapped together on the PTR for testing. These are not optimized, and they're already destroying Torment 4 content. Fully optimized with all the right items and all the masterworks up and everything, these can push very deep into the pit and can probably tackle the hardest content in the game, the pit 100, which is now the highest pit level in the game. And we're going to start right off with, I want to say the one I'm most excited about, but honestly, whenever I swap between these builds, I get more excited and more excited. But the Spin to Win Rogue using the new skill Dance of Knives. Look, I loved Twisting Blades. I played that as my rogue build for a while before now migrating to ranged rogue, but Dance of Knives is so fun. Back in the D3 days, I loved the Spin to Win as well. Now we got an even cooler Spin to Win build for the rogue in D4. Dance of Knives is an interesting new skill that is channeled, but it doesn't consume any of your actual resource. When I first started just making my own Fan of Knives build, I was using it as a generator, actually. I was using it in addition to like a penetrating shot or a barrage or some other spender. Fan of Knives does not generate by itself, of course, but rogues have interactions where, oh, you know, if you deal shadow damage on a crit or what have you, you generate resource. But I was really excited to migrate then to a full pure Dance of Knives build. And again, it doesn't consume resource, but it does have charges. So it's a channeled skill. You build up charges very rapidly, and you can sustain those charges to some degree, but you can't really sustain it infinitely in general. You're going to be spinning to win quite a bit, then you take a break, which is fine because you want to be leaving yourself moments to pop your imbues, for instance. The build that you're seeing me run is one that is running a poison imbue, but it is actually also using the new rogue keystone passive Alchemical Admixture, which is all about mixing and matching all 3 of the imbues. Now at first I ran this build with actual triple imbue. Sorry, 3 elements, not 3 imbues. I was running this with full-on triple imbue, but then I found this build by Mippy or M1PY. He's an excellent rogue player. He's on the max roll team. This dude's great. He's certainly going to have a full build guide for this in time for the launch of Vessel of Hatred. And he cleverly said, hey, I don't actually need to put these skills on my bar. What he did was tempered onto his weapons chance to deal shadow damage and chance to deal cold damage. So you're getting those triple elements just at the cost of a couple little tempers there. All right, now moving on to the Druid build. If you want to make explosions appear all over your screen constantly, this is the build for you. It uses the new skill Stone Burst. This is a skill that you could channel it, or you can just tap it to pop it. If you hold and channel, the explosion will, it's gonna grow. The radius is gonna grow until eventually you release and trigger the explosion. But it seems you can just rapidly spam it, and it's kind of more effective that way. At least it's more effective when you're able to solve your spirit issues. And we do that via the Mjolnir ring. This is a unique ring that while Cataclysm is active, you gain unlimited spirit and deal double damage. So then the rest of the kit is basically ensuring we have Cataclysm up pretty much all the time. We get a bunch of cooldown reduction tempers for our Cataclysm. We take the Wolf Calamity boon to extend the duration of Cataclysm by 25%. We take the Snake Spirit boon, Calm Before the Storm. That's going to further make us be reducing the cooldown on our Cataclysm. And then we even take the new aspect of Anticline Burst. That's going to make Stone Burst automatically trigger at its maximum radius while you're spamming it, basically bypassing the core mechanic. Druid's been eating well lately. Season 5 has a really fun Druid build with Trample. Now this one I was really pleasantly surprised with, finding it a lot of fun. Druids get a lot of hate, and outside of low levels, they really don't deserve it. Alright, onto our Necromancer build. This one as well I really enjoyed, and this one technically also is emerging now in Season 5, and it is all about Bone Spirit being triggered by Blood Wave, the ultimate. Now, Blood Wave is an ultimate that leaves behind 6 blood orbs, and then this unique, the Blood Artisan's Cuirass, will make it that when you pick up blood orbs after a certain number, it spawns a Bone Spirit. It's really critical to have a well-rolled, a max-rolled, in fact, Blood Artisan's Cuirass with a 3 Blood Orb roll. That means every time you pick up 3 Blood Orbs, i.e. twice per cast of Blood Wave, you're going to spawn a Bone Spirit. Also, this Bone Spirit will deal bonus damage based on your current life percent. So we work that in with a Doombringer Mythic, if and when you can get one of those, which gives you a ton of max life. And we're building altogether a very tanky build that's going to maintain a high percentage of max life to benefit from the max of the Blood Artisan's Cuirass. Also, we're going to work in the Tidal aspect, which makes Blood Wave launch twice, so we're getting 6 Blood Orbs per cast. We're also going to work in a Fast Blood aspect. Blood Orbs reduce your ultimate cooldown by 3 seconds at max. So let's run some math here. We have Blood Wave by itself, leaving 6 Blood Orbs, times 2 because it's being double cast, so 12 Blood Orbs. 12 Blood Orbs at 3 seconds an orb, that's 36 seconds. We stack on some Blood Wave cooldown reduction, and we effectively have no cooldown now on our ultimate. Then combine that with an aspect of Gore Quills just for good measure. That's going to make it that when you cast your Blood Lance, it's going to pop automatically on your screen the Blood Orbs. So you're really just spamming Blood Lance. You don't have to go walk and pick up all those Blood Orbs. This build's a lot of fun. Then for Barbarian, we got this build that is kind of the antithesis of the spin to win Rogue, or even spin to win Barbarian himself. It is stand to win. It is stay perfectly put and don't move at all in order to win. Now this one's particularly interesting because it's actually taking advantage of some of the rune words. All the builds are taking advantage of the rune words. We'll talk a bit more about rune words at the end of this, but for the most part, there's like a couple really good rune words that all builds are going to use. But here we have a specific rune word that is the Lith Tech rune word. What Tech does, the suffix, evoke the Barbarian's Earthquake, dealing damage to enemies within. So this is an Earthquake build, and what does Lith do? Stand still for 0.3 seconds. So stand still to create earthquakes. So this build is literally about staying put and just letting earthquakes spawn. So we're going to take an aspect of Inner Calm that's going to give you a damage buff while standing still. We're going to take the aspect of Bolcathos. That makes it that when you leap, it creates an earthquake, but we're not a leapquake build. It also makes it that you gain 30% damage reduction while standing within an earthquake. And believe me, you will want and need that damage reduction because you're sitting there tanking everything. Then, super important is the Wild Bolt aspect. Every 2 seconds, distant enemies are pulled to you. So you are vortexing in enemies. You can almost AFK with this build. At lower difficulties, it's going to play itself. You sit in the middle of wherever, enemies, you walk away from the computer, and they're going to be exploding. We're going to get the aspect of Earthquake. Ground Stomp creates an earthquake. We actually will use Ground Stomp, so if you want to make extra earthquakes, if you want to put more work into the build, you can. Also, while standing in an earthquake, you deal more damage. Now, you might think that earthquakes are damage dealer. It's actually going to be Dust Devils. We're going to take the Force of Nature legendary Paragon node. Your earthquakes have a 75% chance to spawn a Dust Devil every second that deals X damage. And we're going to combine that with buffs to damage our Dust Devils and get even more, i.e. we're going to work in aspect of the Fierce Winds. Your shout skills also create 3 Dust Devils, and your Dust Devils are up to 25% bigger and deal 1% increased damage for each 1% their size is increased. Of course, playing this build actively and popping all of your Barbarian shouts and everything will be the most effective, but if you want a build to just literally chillax at lower difficulty and be able to AFK and kill monsters, especially, for instance, imagine this in Infernal Hordes. You get 4 of these guys, you just plop them on all 4 of the spawn points, boom. Then lastly for the Sorcerer. Alright, we all know that Lightning Spear is riding high in Season 5. It's still riding high in Season 6, but we're not going to showcase Lightning Spear again. It's probably going to get nerfed, even though, again, now it's super dominating the PTR. But here's a build that is also super fun and super strong, and it is Chain Lightning, and it is possibly the best speedrunning build in the game. But I must say, it is the squishiest of the builds that I ran here. The thing is, you kill stuff so fast that it doesn't really matter. Things can't hurt you if they're dead. So it relies on the Axial Conduit. Again, we've already known that from Season 5, but as a recap, it changes the behavior of Chain Lightning. It's going to alternate between orbiting you and seeking up to 3 enemies. When it returns, it's going to drain mana from you for each active Chain Lightning that you got. After draining a total of 66 mana, the bolt then explodes for a bunch of lightning damage. And if you don't have enough mana left, it's going to expire. So in general, you can maintain about half a dozen casts of Chain Lightning before running out of mana. It does make the build a little bit more thoughtful. You can't just spam mindlessly. You got to pay attention. But what makes this such a great speed farmer apart from the raw damage? We're working in Arrayment of the Infinite. After using Teleport, close enemies are pulled to you and stunned. So we're going to be moving around, teleporting around, zooping in enemies to rapidly kill them before moving on. In fact, if you played like Diablo 2 teleport style, where it's like boop boop teleport, either with your hammered in with Enigma or with the Sorcerer, Nova down the enemies around you, move on. This is the closest I feel that captures that gameplay. And then we're also running the Teleport Enchantment, which is going to replace your Evade with a short-range teleport that, hey, still benefits from the same power of the Arrayment of the Infinite. Now we're also going to use the new Keystone passive, Enlightenment, which is all about manipulating multiple elements. Basically, you gain, the short version is, by stacking a bunch of different elemental damage buffs, you gain more damage. Here, specifically, while enlightened, your bonus damage with fire, lightning, and cold are equal to them combined, and you gain 25% increased damage, 45% increased mana regeneration, 20% attack speed. So now we're going to work Frostburn Gauntlets into this build in order to get a bonus to your fire and cold damage, because that's going to buff our lightning damage. Of course, we work in a Talrash's Iridescent Loop. For each type of elemental damage you deal, gain increased damage for 4 seconds. And we also work in the new skill Familiar, because while a Familiar is active, you're going to gain 10% increased damage to skills that deal its damage type. It's going to be lightning. So while this build did exist in Season 5, we are now tuning it up for Season 6, and it's becoming even more supercharged. Now let's talk a moment about Runewords. So Runewords exists in a place right now where I think the idea is good. I think we're on the right track. I think, unfortunately, it seems that there are a couple runeword combos that are really strong that everyone wants to get on just about every build. And specifically, it's the effect runes, Ohm and Yom, or Yom. So Ohm evokes the Barbarian's enhanced war cry, increasing your move speed and damage dealt. This is so useful to so many builds. And then the Yom rune makes it that you evoke the Druid's Petrify, that's the ultimate, which is going to stun enemies and increases your crit strike damage against them, and that's in a pretty significant area. So these two effects you're going to see on almost every top tier build. What might change is how they're triggered. So sometimes it's going to be from, casting a skill, sometimes it's going to be from moving, right? So generally for the Warcry, it tends to be move X number of feet, and that's going to trigger it. And for the Petrify, it tends to be cast either a channel or a non-channeled skill or whatever skill. I'm hoping that Runewords can arrive in a place where we're going to see more variety in what we're taking there. Otherwise, though, I'm pretty excited for Season 6, Vessel of Hatred. A lot of builds that I am eager to play, but I turn the question to you folks. What builds are you most excited to play in Season 6, apart from the Spiritborn, of course? Sound off in the comments. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my supporters. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more Diablo content.